Hey everybody, it's Andy Sokolovich from UnleashStrengths.com coming to you with another episode of THEME-ADDICTS, the only podcast that exists that talks about how much we love strengths and how we use it every single day. Today, my guest is Emily Petroff. Emily, how are you doing today? Go ahead and introduce yourself and then give us your top 5.
Hi, I'm Emily Petroff. Thank you so much, Andy, Petroff. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am excited. I'm in Billings, Montana. That is my home. And I am a life, relationship, business coach, kind of all of the above. And I'm excited to be here to talk about strengths with you.
Well, I'm excited that you decided to join us, and I apologize for botching your last name, Petroff.
That's okay,
my last name
no worries.
is Sokolovich, so it gets messed up all the time. Did you give us your top 5?
Oh, I'm sorry. So my top 5, my number 1 is individualization. My number 2 is woo. My number 3 is achiever. Number 4, input. And number 5, futuristic.
Wow, I really like the culmination of those 5 themes. So let's talk for a little bit about when StrengthsFinder was introduced to you. Maybe you want to talk about who brought it into your life and why.
You know, I can't really say that it was any one person. I think it was the universe that brought it to me. The funny thing about my journey was that I had the book on my bookshelf and had read it, but had never taken the actual test in the back. I think it was one of the books that I had maybe gotten secondhand at a bookstore or something like that. I've always been into leadership and growing business, personal growth and development, that kind of thing, and so it was one of those things that I read through, but I don't know that I fully grasped what it was. So it was sitting on my shelf for a long time, and I went through a coaching program with my own coach. I believe if I'm going to be a coach, I need to have a coach, and so I went through a program with a coach that I have, and she said, "Do you know about StrengthsFinder? Have you done this?" And I said, "Well, I have the book," and she said, "But have you taken the test?" And I'm like, gosh, you know, I don't think I have. And so I came home and looked at the book, and the code had already been scratched off and someone had already used it. So that's how I knew that I had gotten it secondhand. And so I went and got a new copy and took the test, and it was a moment for me that was like, I don't know if it's inspiring is the word, but it was like finding a new level of who I was, right, and kind of validating, oh my gosh, yes, that's exactly who I am, and that's exactly why I do what I do. Oh my gosh, so it was really
before you get into that too much, I don't want to cut you off, but we refer to that as your aha moment, and that's actually my second question.
Okay.
Maybe you want to go into a little bit more of that aha moment, what happened, how it kind of changed your life, and why it was so impactful.
Well, I think for me, you know, I had been coaching. You know, my journey started several years ago. I've owned 9 businesses, and I've worked in the corporate world in different elements, and I kind of started coaching entrepreneurs and small business owners by default. Just friends of mine that I knew in the community would come to me and say, hey, what about this? What are you doing about that? How are you doing this? And so I have been coaching for quite some time before I ever came upon StrengthsFinder. But what was interesting to me, or that aha moment that I had that was so cool, was the individualization is the reason that my one-on-one coaching works so well for me. And I didn't really know that until I was able to really read the description and embrace it, and then utilize that with intent. Woo was kind of fun because I know that I am an outgoing person. I know that I love to network. I know that those are things that were like, yeah. But I think for me, the number one with the individualization, I never could really put my finger on why I love the one-on-one so much, and why, you know, I talk to groups all the time, but I really, really do well in small group coaching sessions and with one-on-one individual clients,
right.
and that really, truly, individualization is the reason that I can excel at that so well.
Great. Yeah, that's an awesome insight. I mean, it's great to, you already knew these things existed in you, but you really didn't have. And a lot of times when we talk about strengths, we talk about vocabulary, and a lot of times we just don't have the words to be able to tell people what it is that we're really, really good at, or how to naturally define our talents. So,
yeah,
looking
absolutely.
looking back, since the day that the strengths were revealed to you, you got your top 5 or your full 34. I don't know how aware of your entire 34 you are, but what does your strengths journey look like? How has it kind of maybe morphed or molded the way you do business, or maybe in your personal life? Are you constantly strengths aware, or do you find yourself just having to always go back and dig back through your report, or have you made this part of your life?
No, it really has become part of my life. And almost just in a, it has been incorporated into who I am now at such a level that it's not something that I really have to think about, and yet I think about it, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, for example, when I'm with my kiddos, I know that there's no blanket approach for them. I treat each one of them as individuals, and we create, chores lists for them based on who they are as an individual. It is the work that I do with my clients. I create individual programs for them, and for me, it's I have to really manage it. I mean, my number 3 is achiever, and because I know that about myself, it can work against me, and so there was a lot of work that I had to really do, and self-reflection in knowing these to manage them better. And so as the achiever, I sometimes will be the first one there and the last one to leave. I'll put more into a relationship than maybe the other person is, and so I have to really manage that. I have to watch, what I do and how I do it. And before I didn't understand that, and now because I understand those things and why I do those things, it's easier for me. It becomes just part of what I'm doing on a regular basis. And now in business, because it was such a profound experience for me, I have all of my clients that I work with go through and do that process as well, regardless of the reason that they come to me. I do a lot of relationship coaching. I'm very passionate about people. And when I say relationships, it's not just about the relationship like with your significant other. It's about the relationship with your kiddos or your family members, or maybe even at work. So regardless of the reason that people come to me, their strengths can be used personally and professionally, and when they know those things, I think they can use them with intention rather than just kind of, going about as they were.
Yeah, absolutely. It's every podcast that we've done so far, something very similar has been said. Is when I took the assessment, now I know my strengths, I can kind of relax a little bit because I know what I'm good at. I'm not going to have to worry about trying to fix my weaknesses. I'm going to apply these strengths, and I'm going to give it, run full throttle. But it's also smart that you said you have to sometimes learn how to manage these strengths as well. I mean, we often talk about sharpening and tempering our strengths just based on the situation. So, and it's great that you've learned to integrate these in your personal family life, because now somebody with high individualization, you're doing something great for your children by acknowledging them as two individuals, as opposed to just, these are my kids, I'm going to treat them the same regardless. Because I think as youth growing up, you do have that own personality, and we recognize that with our children. We have a boy and a girl, and they just have two completely different personalities, and if we were just to treat them the same, it would probably who knows, stunt their maturity, or it would kind of make it a little bit less fun to be a kid. So,
absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about, now that you know about the assessment, in your coaching practice, and I think it's great that you coach couples. Let's skip that question. Let's talk about you coaching couples. How do you integrate StrengthsFinder in your couples coaching?
Oh my gosh, it's so powerful. So for example, somebody with futuristic, once your partner knows that and realizes that you're always wanting to know what's going to happen next, right? What does the next 6 months, what does the next year, what does the next 5 years hold for us? What does that look like? It can really provide a huge insight. Instead of having this person, be nagging at you for what are you going to do next, they can begin to understand why that's something that's important to you and what you're working to create. And so instead of it becoming this wedge sometimes that happens, it becomes this level of understanding the other person and beginning to love them for who they are, not who you want them to be, and to work to change somebody to be different. You can really embrace what those strengths are and realize that those strengths can actually be a strength, even though for you it may be something that was originally an annoyance.
Right. No, I agree. Futuristic is my number two, and there's not so much of a timeline for me that we have to. Here, I have to auto switch this screen. There's not much of a timeline for me that my wife and I have to sit down and talk about. It's more my futuristic is like long term. So much as let's see, community development. If this, then that. If we do this, then this is going to happen. If we do that, then this is going to happen. So I'm constantly looking down the road to see not only what events are coming up, but what we can do right now to impact the future. So for my wife and I, just being aware of our top five has really changed our marriage altogether. I mean, things about me that used to really upset her, not so much upset her, but maybe she was concerned about in the relationship now have really been tampered, because now I can go to her and say, hey, this is my strength, and I need your help too. If it ever gets really aggressive, you need to let me know. That way I can understand your side of the story too, and do what's best for our relationship as a whole, as opposed to just trying to self-gratify myself and get my strengths at the tip of the spear. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an awesome insight.
I just thought of a really great story that's on the same lines of the couple conversation that we're having, but also how when I realized how powerful in my coaching practice strengths can be, I had a client who usually the homework that I give the first week or even before they come to their first session is to take the test and really sit in that for a little while, what those strengths are and what they mean to you, and how you can actively use them even more than you're using them now. And this one particular client, she didn't have an opportunity. She's technologically challenged, and so she was having trouble getting online and getting the test done. And so we had our first session and maybe even our second session before she was actually able to get the test done. And so some of the homework that I had given her, she didn't do the next two sessions. And I was confused because she was a client who was very committed to the process, very committed to what she wanted to achieve and accomplish. And yet I still couldn't figure out why it was that she was sort of, beating around the bush to get to this thing that I had been asking her to do. And so then I think it was like on the third session, she had finally taken the test. And I looked, and because of the way that her strengths were laid out, I would have never, ever asked her to do the homework the way that I had asked her to do it, because she just wasn't going to do it. She's not a confrontational person, and there was a piece of it that felt somewhat confrontational to her, and so her harmony strength would not allow her to go and do it the way that I asked. So I was able to construct it in a way that allowed her to move forward and accomplish the exact same thing, but just in a different way. So that one experience for me really set the tone for, okay, this is hugely important to how I'm coaching, and the different tools that I can give my clients to accomplish the things that they really want to accomplish.
Yeah, it's not only an important insight tool for your spouse or significant other, but obviously for a coach or anybody that's trying to help you succeed. But one of the things you kind of alluded to it a little bit is when there's resistance to taking the assessment. You go up to somebody and say, hey, the StrengthsFinder 2.0 assessment, I think, is something that we want to integrate into our coaching, or we want to integrate into our team. I would like for you to take the assessment. Have you ever heard, not another assessment, not another, am I going to be a monkey or a color or something like this? I've taken 100 personality tests. When you meet that kind of resistance with StrengthsFinder, what do you say or what do you do to kind of get around that?
I think, again, it's different for every person because of my individualization. There's not one blanket response that I have. So I really try to find where the resistance is coming from, right? Mm-hmm. Is it really about this, what good is this going to do? And sometimes I can switch it and ask them to do it for me initially, right? This is just mm-hmm. how I outline my coaching practice. This is part of what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm certain that you're going to find value in it. And if not, for me, I'll be able to coach you differently than I would if I didn't know these things. So, again, it's different for every person. Sometimes it is about that I've taken 1 million assessments and how is this different? But sometimes it's just different. Sometimes people don't want to find out those things. They're scared of it, right? They're like, I'm going to have to rise to a new level that I'm not really prepared for, or maybe I'm I think sometimes people are worried about their strengths because there's so much focus on how to improve our weaknesses that really tends to be a lot of when people come in, they're like, I really need to improve on this, this, and this. And it's like, when you have an appreciative coaching approach, which is so in alignment with the strengths, it becomes something that is different. So, I think it's on an individual basis for me, but those are a couple of examples of how I talk them through it.
Well, it's smart. I mean, it's smart to recognize that your individualization is coming through there. And, we hear the same thing, as I speak with coaches and just kind of strengths evangelists and enthusiasts. I mean, really getting people to understand that this is not just another assessment. Sometimes is a difficult thing for you to do. I mean, you're going to meet some kind of resistance. What I always find out is that the person that's trying to get another individual to take the assessment, you don't have to be super aggressive. You don't have to be super persuasive. Tell your own story. Tell how this assessment or this tool has helped you and what it's allowed you to realize about yourself, about your own given strengths. And you're right. You hit the nail on the head that we are a world that is so focused on trying to fix our own weaknesses that we often forget about our own strengths. And it's just a matter of not all of us want to be introspective. And the other side of that coin is that when we do find out what we're good at, are we going to have the discipline and the energy to take advantage of that new information and maybe change our lives a little bit? If you're hugely resistant to change, this may be a game changer with the quotes in here, but this may be something that you're not willing to do.
Absolutely.
So thanks for that insight. So let's just say that now, you being a coach, you're going to have a little bit more knowledge about this question, but so say you sit down with somebody for the very first time. They just went in, they took the assessment, they printed out their action report, they're looking at their top 5, they have no background knowledge on strengths-based development or positive psychology or anything like that. What advice would you give somebody just to take that very first step to move towards developing a life full of, strength satisfaction?
The first step. I think, looking at the ways that they're already utilizing them in their life already, right? So if they can pinpoint 2 things within each one of the top 5, how am I already using this? And then, that's already happening. And then pushing it just one step farther and maybe finding an additional 3 that they can continue, right? Something that they're maybe not doing or something that they can stretch themselves to do within each of those. And sometimes it's about managing it, right? Sometimes it's about looking at it and going, okay, how is this hindering me, so to speak, in some ways? How am I utilizing it to a point, for me it's achiever, how am I utilizing it to a point that can be unhealthy for me at some point? So I think that would be the first thing that I would say for me and for my clients that I work with, is really like looking at them each as individual strengths. How am I already doing it? It's just happening innately. And then how can I really be intentional about it?
Yeah, I mean, Gallup refers to it as naming it, claiming it, naming it. We've said this in the past. I mean, being able to, number one, identify your top 5, have a general understanding of what they are. Claiming it is basically saying, accepting that it is you. I mean, some people don't like their top 5. I mean, we also have to remember that. We talk in a very positive light about StrengthsFinder, and it's nothing but good things, but sometimes it is an insightful tool. So sometimes you're given a set of strengths that you may not think that you have. That's why it's great to, like you said, select 2 of them, acknowledge that they are yours. And the other thing that I always tell people to do is give your report to a loved one, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, somebody who's close to you and can read that and say, you know what, you may not see this in yourself, but this is dead accurate. And
Absolutely.
I've had that happen several times where I've been reviewing somebody's top 5 and their spouse is sitting to their left or their right, and they're sitting there like kind of smiling or smirking or shaking their heads, and the actual person who received their report is just staring at me like, I don't get it. But all those people around you get it.
Absolutely. People around us, I think, they see us differently than we see ourselves. And because of the focus on weakness in our society as a whole, I think we tend to embrace, especially the people, me as a person, and what I've had to do to overcome that, and the clients that I see, there's such a focus on all the things that are wrong with me that I don't see those things. And so sometimes they can look at those strengths as that's not a strength. My detail oriented, my ability to pay attention to detail or to be disciplined, is that really a strength for me? And their partner or their children or whoever is in their life goes, yeah, that's absolutely you, and that's part of the reason that I love you, and the things that I really appreciate.
Yeah, it's such an insightful tool, and I talk about my strength story and things like that. I try not to talk about it too much when I'm interviewing somebody else, but for me, it just was something that put my life back in focus. I mean, I was lost. I was beyond lost. I was drifting, on a broken piece of plywood out in the middle of the Atlantic somewhere with no sense of direction, and it really acted as a tether to kind of pull me back on shore. And again, between my wife and I, we now have a language that we can use internally in our home and with our her and I and our kids that allows us to be understanding of each other's needs. And one of the best part about strengths I love is what you need from others in order to be at your best. I mean, maybe you want to talk a little bit about that when you express to somebody, hey, you're an input, you're an analytical, you're a deliberative. So you, as husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you need to make sure that they have enough information to make a decision. Now, do you do that with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, once they, like you said, once they are able to accept, yes, this is who I am, these are the things that make me me, they can begin to be intentional about it. And what intentional for me means is they can begin to ask for the things that they need. And sometimes when you have a partner who goes through the process as well, like in your case where your wife also is in tune to that and you have that language, you sometimes don't have to ask for it because they just know, or they'll just give it to you. But you can begin to ask for those things at work. You can begin to ask for those things, in your personal life. You can begin to ask for those things, in every aspect of your life. You can begin to explain to people, like you said, it's sometimes about giving words to or phrases to things we didn't know how to explain before, and that is so helpful when we communicate with other people in our lives. And so I think that it really, really makes a huge difference. For me, it was with Woo. I know that I need that in order to fill myself up, right? It's like if I'm feeling like, ugh, I need to find a networking event to go to because that is something that just really makes me feel wonderful. And,
Right.
To be able to connect other people one of my favorite things to do when I'm in a room is to find somebody that at a networking event that's off to the side by themselves, and I can tell it's either the first time or maybe they don't have Woo at all, so they're feeling a little bit like, oh, I don't know if this is a place that I should be. Find them what they need to get out of that event. Why are they there in the first place? And find someone else that I already know that I can hook them up with. Making that connection that has nothing to do with me is so rewarding and satisfying. And so just doing something as simple as that can help me fill myself back up and utilize number two, right, for me. So that's really
Yeah.
important to me.
No, that's a great point. I mean, we always a lot of times we'll pick on Woo a little bit, but a lot of times Woo gets kind of a misperception that it's your smarmy used car salesman always out there looking for handshakes just to kind of broaden your social circle. But a lot of people, myself included, use my Woo very similar to what you just said. You are a connector. I mean, you're out there making introductions. You're out there giving people confidence in themselves that maybe aren't as comfortable in a network setting as you are.
Right.
So it's always great. I always tell everybody, if you want to make the best of your top 5 and you really want to make the best of your talents, use those talents to help other people. That's
Absolutely.
absolutely the best way to go. Don't be, I call it strength selfish. Don't be strength selfish. I mean, you have these talents that you've been given since birth. Go ahead and utilize them and help others succeed. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing too, going back a little bit to the kind of aha moment, like I said, I was able to find what I feel like is my purpose in life, coaching, before I found StrengthsFinder. But StrengthsFinder validated for me that I truly am in the right place. It's like I've had a lot of different businesses, and I still have some of those businesses, but they're not my passion. They're just something that I do. And so when I found StrengthsFinder, it was like, you have created the perfect business to utilize these top 5 strengths every single day in
Mm-hmm.
every single way. And so for me, it was like finding home, right? It was like coming home again. It was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. So it was hugely validating for me because I'm a serial entrepreneur, and so I start a business and then sell it off, or find somebody else to run it for me and start over again. And this is
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that I know I'll be in forever, because it is, and I think StrengthsFinder really validated that for me. This is the place that you're supposed to be every day.
Yeah, I like that word that you use, validation. I think it's important because when you look at, I mean, from an entrepreneur standpoint, when you look at business statistics and how many businesses are actually successful out there, the number's really, really low. But in my mind, being aware of your strengths, that kind of probably boosts your rate of success a little bit. Because if you know that what you're doing is in line with your strengths, you know several things. You know, number one, that you're going to be passionate about it, and you know, number two, that your chances of quitting are probably slim to none. And then just having that, like you said, validation that what you were doing is right. I mean, how many times do we go through things in life where we're taking steps in a direction that we just don't know if it's going to work or not? And
Absolutely.
sometimes that curiosity or that little bit of confusion is enough to kind of derail us, and we quit. And we quit way too early because it gets scary so fast. But you and I are very similar in that approach. And my top 5 really are perfect for what I'm trying to do and what I want to do as a profession. So not only do I get an immense amount of satisfaction from that, but I'm not scared. I mean, I'm looking towards a bright, prosperous future because I know that as long as I'm happy, the rest of it will fall in line.
Yeah, I think, I have this experience every day, and at first it felt very arrogant, maybe, or conceited,
Hmm.
because of the focus we have, I think, on weakness. But every single day that I have an experience with a client, I walk out of that going, I am really good at my job. And that was something that I never experienced until I found coaching, and until I had the language to wrap around what I do. And so, that for me is like a I don't even know how to
A home
explain it.
run.
It's so
Boom.
inspiring, right? Everybody
Yeah.
wants to be able to look at, or I felt like I always wanted to be able to say, I am so good at my job. And I never had that. I've never said that before in my life until now. And being able to use my strengths with intention has really helped me to propel that in a way that I can't even begin to explain.
Yeah. A lot of my passion for strengths and my passion especially for I guess engaging your strengths towards a profession yields a lot from my father growing up. I mean, he really didn't love his job. He went to work, he provided for his family, but he didn't love what he did. And ultimately you could see that. You could see that in himself. I mean, he liked his hobbies, but he didn't like what he was doing to earn money. And we
Yeah.
spend so much time at work. You should enjoy it. And really, I think StrengthsFinder has become that tool that kind of to deflate a little bit of that pressure and take some weight off your shoulders and allow you to focus towards a goal. Nobody ever says quit your job, um, go collect unemployment, and then refocus, take this assessment, everything will be okay. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. But at least if you have an idea of what you're good at and what your natural talents are, you can think down the road about maybe making a career change. So
Yeah.
it's important to know that. So I ask everybody this, and some people can answer it right away. Some people think about, and some people say, I don't have one. But out of your top 5, which one is your favorite and why?
Number one, individualization by far. Um, I think because, like, when you were talking about the differences in your children and knowing that they're not made up the same way,
Mhm.
um, that for me is huge. And I think that if I had that experience, and my parents were wonderful, by the way, but if I had that experience, being able to really embrace who I was as an individual, and be be treated differently, right? It's like we all want to treat everybody the same, but it's like I think when we can begin to treat others the way that they want to be treated, right? Not the way that we want to be treated. What is that? The golden rule is treat people the way you want to be treated. I don't think that applies. I think it's treat people how they want to be treated, right? And so for me, that really embraces individualization, and that one strength allows me to be successful in almost all the relationships that I have, no matter how challenging they are or how easily, how organic and how easy they might be. It really allows me to navigate through and to be able to see things from that person's perspective, and that alone makes my life way more peaceful and satisfying, fulfilling, all of those things. For sure, that would be. And at the same time, like in my business, I think, I know that because I'm so individually focused, I struggle sometimes to create blanket programs that I could teach to a class of 50 or 60, right? It's so hard for me to I want to find out what's going on with you and you and you and you and you as an individual. So so that's something that I'm really working on as well. So there's the flip side of how I can manage that strength for myself. But as a whole, hands down, my number one, individualization.
Yeah, that's great, and I love how you kind of flip the golden rule there. I think that's something that we need to be really aware of. One of the things, and I'll reveal a little mistake that I made. When you get back from Gallup and you have to coach 6 people, and they have to go in and give you like a little testimonial or something on Gallup's webpage. But one of the women that I coached first thing it said on Gallup's little curriculum was, make sure that you're referring to somebody by the name they want to be called. Well, I just skipped the whole first half and kind of created my own version, not because Gallup's wasn't great. It's just because I'm like you. I mean, I wanted to sit down, and I got so passionate talking about strengths that I really skipped what I was taught. And I was calling her name was Patricia, and I had heard somebody call her Pat. And so I said, well, Pat, thanks for coming today. Thanks for sitting down with me. We'll talk about your strengths. Let's look at your report. And she was very sweet. She's listening to me, and about 10 minutes in the conversation, she goes, Andy, I have to stop you. She's like, I've been so distracted. And I said, oh, no, why? My name is Patricia. She's like, nobody calls me Pat. And I'm like, oh. And I said, and I looked at my book, and it said, step 1, make sure you're calling the person by their first name. But it's so true. I mean, each person is different. And just because, like me, sometimes I have to put a governor on my speed because I'm so passionate about strengths, and I'm so passionate about this positive psychology thing that I come across as aggressive, and I have a hard time tempering my pitch or my approach to the individual. Some people love that high energy sales pitch. Some people love it. They get all excited. They say, feed off of your energy. Yeah. But some people just want to crawl underneath the desk and wait till you leave. Out. Yeah, they get freaked out. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm glad you said that.
I absolutely have had that experience too, because I am high energy. I'm go, 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 go. And, some of my clients are not that way. I just had a woman yesterday who we've done career coaching with, and she's very timid. We've been working on confidence with her, and she's very reserved and set back. So I have to take myself down about six notches before I go into that session with her. And if I treated her the way that I wanted to be treated, I think that we wouldn't have been able to have a successful coaching, relationship. So that is hugely important to me.
Well, this is the last question. And it's huge. It's gigantic and introspective. Everybody, when I ask this, there's always this beautiful, just tender 5 to 10 second pause. You may not have that, why somebody's just thinking about how should I answer this. But let's say strengths never entered your life. Let's say Emily Petroff today never was introduced to strengths back in the day. And how do you think your life would be different if you didn't know what your top 5 were?
Oh, I definitely think that there's less of intention, right? I think that for me is one of the biggest things, is that I'm able to be intentional about those things that are innately there. And when you're able to have intention with something, it's like setting a goal, right? It's like you're either, you use the ocean example earlier, if you're out in the ocean and you don't know where you're going, you don't have any idea, you'll eventually arrive somewhere, but who knows if that's where you want to be, right? Who knows if that's where you want to end up? But when you have intention and when you set a goal and you know where you're going, you will arrive hopefully faster than at the location that you're planning on being, instead of kind of fumbling around and just hoping that it all works out. So I think for me, if I hadn't been exposed to StrengthsFinder and I hadn't had those aha moments and epiphanies that I had, the language to be able to explain it to people and to just be really introspective about how I can utilize these even more so than I'm utilizing them now, I don't think that I would be where I am. I don't think that I would have the confidence in my business that I have because of the validation that it gave me. I don't think that I would be. I don't think that I would be as good of a coach coaching my clients because of the experience that I had when I didn't have the StrengthsFinder ahead of me. I gave homework that I would have never given. So I think it changes. I definitely wouldn't be as good of a parent, I think, and I still struggle to go, am I a good parent, right? We all ask that question sometimes. But I think that, it enhances my life in every single aspect, personally and professionally, and everything in between that. So I think it just definitely wouldn't be as fulfilling as it is now. And when I can share that experience with other people, even if it's just my friends and family, I find myself wanting to know, what are my mom's top 5 strengths? And she's not someone who really is a personal growth and development person, so I've kind of been working on her, and so I think I'll get her at some point. But I find myself wanting to know those things because it had such a profound impact on me and my life, and it does with my clients as well, that, without those things, I think we kind of are fumbling around, and we can be, more intentional and accomplish more things in a way that's easier. I think we struggle less, right? I think there's more paddling upstream, so to speak, when you don't know what those strengths are, because you can't utilize them the way you can when you know.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And as we do this podcast more and more, and we talk to more strengths enthusiasts, the answers seem to be the same. They always say, things became easier. There was less friction. I wasn't having to work so hard. I kind of, and this may be a weird vision of strengths, but it's like courting somebody, going out on a date with somebody and being with them for months and months and months and just not knowing if it's going to work. But you're going to grind it through just in case maybe you fall in love and maybe it works out. But then when I learned my strengths, it was like I was speed dating for opportunities.
Absolutely.
It was like, yes, 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 no, no, no. Next, yes, 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 no, no, no. Yeah. And then when an opportunity came and it was like, wow, this fits within my strengths. I know I can do it well. I'm excited to take on this new challenge. Thank you, and there's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to get a lot of satisfaction from this. So I know that might seem like a weird thing, but it is. You have a clear-cut list of things that you're naturally good at, and it just makes sense to just work in line with those, because anything less than that is going to be too difficult and not worth your time. So
absolutely, I think it enhances the decision-making process in life by 150%, right? It definitely is something that you can look at and weigh. I was trying to think, is it Richard Bronson, that said he never focuses on more than 3 things at a time, and no matter what, he's only these 3 things, and that's it. And I think that strengths allows us to do that in a way that is similar. It's like, I know now opportunities that come along that I'm like, that's not a good fit for me. I definitely, I would struggle. Could I do it? Sure. But how hard would it be compared to this over here? And so I think that it enhances the decision-making process in life as a whole, or the people that we align ourselves with, or that we're able to create long-lasting relationships with. It makes that a world easier than it was without it for me.
Yeah, very, very well put. So, Emily, at the later part of the show here, what we do is like to open up your opportunity to kind of maybe pitch your business, talk about some content you've been creating, or discuss a little bit more about yourself professionally, just so our listeners can maybe contact you if they have a desire to be coached, or maybe they just want to kind of chew on your ear a little bit about strengths.
Sure, absolutely. The work that I do, like I said, I coach people in all different aspects, but for me it really is about creating confidence. And so I work with folks on creating confidence inside their business. I work with them in creating confidence in their relationship, work with them in creating confidence with themselves internally. So I have a couple of different workshops, and my blog goes out weekly on Wednesdays. And so if somebody wants to get on my blog, they can go to my website, and it's evolveyourrelationship.com, and find me. I'm on Facebook. It's Emily Petroff, or Evolve is my Facebook business page. Those are a couple of ways. I'm on Twitter, at epetroff. So there's a couple of different ways that they can connect with me. But really, it's for me, the work that I'm doing right now with my clients it's about creating confidence in their life, and we utilize strengths to do that every single day. So that's kind of what I'm working on and what I've been working on. So.
Well, Emily, you're a beautiful, dynamic person, and I'm so glad that you gave me the opportunity to interview you for THEME-ADDICTS. THEME-ADDICTS is a presentation by UnleashStrengths.com. You can find us on Facebook, UnleashStrengths, and you can also find us on Twitter at UnleashCSF. Again, that's UnleashCSF. This broadcast goes out every 2 weeks. We try to put it out there on Friday. But THEME-ADDICTS is a show really just focused on allowing two people, just like we were sitting at a bar, to talk about our strengths and just let other people know that there is a tool out there that exists that's just so insightful you don't want to miss it. So, Emily, thanks again for joining me. I really hope maybe you can come back and join us again, and we can hear more about your strength story.
I would absolutely love that. Thank you so much for having me, Andy. This was so fun.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great day.